Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things, and it's something that's really cool that happens in nature. It's phase changes. Now, you've probably heard of the three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Well, today we're going to talk about what it's called when each of those things move from one form to another. So you're going to draw exactly what I draw here. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a nice large triangle, like so. And at each point of that triangle, I'm going to write a different state of matter. Down here, solid. Up here, liquid. And right here, gas. I'm also going to split my triangle into three parts. One for liquid, one for solid, and one for gas. Now, to show you this, of what I'm about to explain, I'm going to use a different colored marker, right? And these little orange dots, right, are going to be my particles. Now, in every state of matter, there are particles that exist inside the element or the structure that we are looking at. Now, in a solid, all of our particles are packed in really close together. This makes the solid really dense, right? This makes it so it's in a solid form. And so when you draw the particles in your solid, you want to make them pretty close. Most of the time they're touching. For this purpose, we're not going to make all of them touching just because it'd be a little bit more difficult to see. But you want to know that the particles are really close together. They're what we would call very dense. Now, in a liquid, that's not always the case. Since liquids are more free-flowing, per se, and they do take the shape of anything that they're put into, right? Our particles are a little bit closer, or a little bit more far away, and there's not as many of them, right? They're kind of spread out, kind of close. So we've got a large amount of particles, but they're not nearly as packed in like our solids. Now, getting to the gas part, here is where the particles, they just want to space out. They are nowhere near each other. By no means is this a dense substance at all. So you can see, as we move through our phase changes, our particles either become more spread out or they become more dense. But you're probably wondering, how do our particles become more dense into a solid or more spread out like in a gas? Well, it has to do with temperature changes. So, excuse me, I'm going to use two different colors here. If I'm using a blue arrow, what do you think that means? If you said a colder temperature, you're absolutely right. And then I'm also going to use red arrows. And if you're thinking, that might be a warmer temperature, you're also right. So we know that when we're moving from a solid to a liquid, our particles are becoming more spread out. So if we think of an example such as ice melting, we know that going from a solid to a liquid requires us to get warmer. And that, my friends, we know as melting. Now, if we were going from a liquid to a solid, we know that's probably going to be a cooler temperature. And we know that as freezing. Same thing in the wintertime, right, where we have freezing rain, snow, sleet, all of that cold stuff. Now, you're probably thinking, all right, let's move on. So if we're heating up from a liquid to a gas, you might be thinking of the water cycle where we're evaporating maybe a little bit, but really this is going to be our boiling point, or we can also call it vaporization. If you ever think about cooking pasta on the stove, when that steam comes up, you put your face over it, you get a really uncomfortable facial. That is our boiling or vaporization point. Now, if we go from a gas to a liquid, we get something, and you probably remember this, because this is exactly the same as the water cycle. We get condensation. Feel free to pause this video at any time so that you can catch up with these notes. Now, here's something that you may not have seen before. Do you know what it's called when we go from a solid to a gas, or vice versa? Well, when we go from a solid to a gas, that, my friends, is called sublimation. We don't often hear this term because it doesn't happen a ton. However, if we go from a gas down to a solid, this is called deposition. And an example of deposition is like in the wintertime when your windows ice over on your car. That is because the water vapor in the air freezes so fast it goes immediately from a gas to a solid. So there are all your phase changes. And know that every time you move from one phase to another, your particles are either spreading out or they're condensing. So as you think about it, when you move from one state to another, are your particles getting farther apart, or are they condensing? Now, I will give you one secret. If it's warmer, your particles, they're going to spread. Think about it like in the summer. You don't want to be super close to people. Everybody's all sweaty. If it's colder, your particles are going to condense. I like to think of it as penguins in the snow. Penguins huddle together for warmth, just like those particles. And there you have it. Those are your phase changes. Feel free to watch this video again, or slow it down, or even pause it at moments that you need. Make sure to draw your arrows correctly, and take a look at those vocabulary words about the different phase changes between a solid, liquid, gas, and back to solid. If you have any questions, let us know.